4th era, year 1, High Chancellor Okado becomes Potentate Okado, basically the stand-in, the steward for the Empire after Uriel dies and Martin dies. He and the Elder Council and the Blades try to maintain order in the Empire as best they can, but various provinces begin declaring their independence. The 5th era, or the 5th year of the 4th era, also known as the Red Year. This is when Red Mountain erupts for the 2nd time. Vardenfell, the island, all civilization on it is basically destroyed. Vivec, so there was this basically, basically the devs of Morrowind had like a short roleplay on the Elder Scrolls forums called the Trial of Vivec, in which I want to say that Michael Kirkbride played Vivec. I think that I'm wrong on that. It would be cool if he did. It's not entirely considered canon, but the idea is basically everyone in Morrowind doesn't like the tribunal anymore. So in the fifth year of the 4th era, they basically have this trial, and they're like, you're not fit to rule us anymore, we want to go back to worshiping the good Daedra. And Vivec is like, okay, fuck you, I'm out of here. And disappears, and then Bardau crashes into fucking Vivec City and kills it. Yeah, Bardau finally goes down and kills Vivec City. I also want to mention right now, Vivec is one of the only people in canon who we know for sure achieved Kim and lived to tell the tale. So in Morrowind, Vivec says like meta lines to you. He knows that he's in the video game, basically. He knows that he's in the video game. That is
he knows about the Godhead.
Yeah, he knows about the Godhead and all that stupid shit. He also knows what Todd Howard did to the fucking franchise.
He knows that's where he left to.
That's why
he's after Todd Howard. He's trying to find a way.
He's William Afton in this bitch trying to get out.
The 10th year of the 4th era, Potentate Okado, a staunch opposer of the Thalmor, which is a religious, which is sort of like a sort of religious, sort of like black sect of Altmer society. He is assassinated by the Thalmor. So remember, Chancellor Okado was a high elf, so hashtag not all high elves. And he basically was disgusted at what the Thalmor were doing. He's like, hey, what they're doing is not cool. And then he got assassinated by them. In the 4th era, year 15, Orsinium is sacked once more by Hammerfell and Hyrule.
No!
Fuck the orcs! Fuck the orcs!
Sorry, I meant, yeah!
Orc refugees flee to Skyrim. This is when
I'm not.
This is when the orc strongholds in the video game Skyrim. This is when they're made as refugees from Orsinium go to Skyrim. The next year, the High King of Skyrim gives Solstheim to the Dunmer, allowing refugees of Vardenfell to flock there en masse. I should also mention Ravenrock, the city, like the main town in the Dragonborn DLC for Skyrim. That town was actually built by Lord Nerevar. Like, he helped fund it and everything. And that's actually a sort of like side plot line in Blood Moon, is that you can build Ravenrock. And you can basically like, oh, this can be a tavern or a blacksmith shop. What do you want to put here? Like stuff like that. It's very cool.
Very Animal Crossing.
Yeah. The 4th era, year 17, a Colovian warlord named Titus Mede conquers the imperial city, and he is crowned the new emperor of Tamriel.
It is.
The 20th year of the 4th era, Refugees Rest, once a meeting place for refugees fleeing Morrowind to Skyrim, is decreed by the Jarls of Skyrim as a monument to their struggle. 2 years later, the Thalmor seize total control of Somerset Isle. In the 4th era, year 29, the Aldmeri Dominion is recreated after the Thalmor forms a union with Valenwood and severs their ties from the Empire. Year 38 of the 4th era, Wundheim, a warrior and resident of Windhelm, dies. His son lit a candle above the hearth in his house in his honor, and nearly 200 years later, it still burned, and the house became the inn known as Candlehearth Hall in Windhelm, in the video game Skyrim. 4th era, year 42. The Night of the Green Fire occurs in Sentinel, after Altmer dissidents who fled Sentinel from Thalmor are attacked by Thalmor operatives. The entire refugee district of Sentinel is razed in this night, this single night. Year 48 of the 4th era, the Main of Elsewhere, who is sort of like a lion-like Khajiit, he is assassinated. And the Main is usually like the typical ruler of Elsewhere.
Everyone's getting killed.
Year 50 of the 4th era, the Keepers of the Razor, individuals who broke up Mehrunes Dagon's Mehrunes Razor and hid it in separate parts of Skyrim are formed. 4th era, year 95, an attempt by House Halalu to assassinate Leril Morvain, ruler of Solstheim, and take control of the island from House Redoran is foiled. 4th era, year 98, Master and Secunda disappear for 2 years in what becomes known as the Void Knights. The Khajiit, for unknown reasons, credits the Thalmor with their return 2 years later, and Imperial influence in Elsewhere practically disappears. So the Thalmor basically manipulated the Khajiit into Thalmor. The 100th year of the 4th era, the Isle of Artaeum disappears for the second time, likely whisked away by the Sijiks as they feared Thalmor control there. 4th era, year 115, Elsewhere separates into the kingdoms of Anakina and Palatine once again, which the Almeri Dominion accepts as client states. Yes?
What year?
114, or 115.
You said that very quickly, and I was like,
Okay. 4th era, year 122, Winterhold collapses into the sea during an event known as the Great Collapse. Most residents attribute this to the College of Winterhold, as it remained mostly unscathed. The college offers the theory that this was caused by aftershocks from the eruption of Red Mountain. Propaganda, personally.
It's a likely story, buddy.
The 4th era, year 129, Riften is completely razed in an uprising against its Jarl, Hosgoon Crossed Daggers, who dramatically increased taxation in the city. It remains little more than a glorified fortress of wood and stone compared to the sprawling city of old, but rebuilding begins. This is basically when the Blackbriar family takes over Riften. Year 130 of the 4th era, Leril Morvain uses his personal wealth to repair the Bulwark, a barricade which protects Ravenrock from ash storms. Year 150 of the 4th era, a small force of Argonians invade Solstheim, but they are repelled by House Redoran. This is the first of many Argonian invasions that I talked about at the beginning of the lecture, where they would have their drugged up warriors going up into Morrowind and attacking
yeah!
4th era, year 168, Emperor Titus Mede II ascends to the throne. Only High Rock, Cyrodiil, Hammerfell, and Skyrim comprise the empire, so only 4 provinces compared to the days of old. Hammerfell is rife with infighting between the Crown and Forebear factions. As I understand, the Forebears are more progressive and the Crowns are stuck in the old ways of Ikuda. I think it could be the other way around, but I think that's how it is.
Skyrim.
The Crowns and the Forebears are not Skyrim lore, but that what I just said, them doing, that is Skyrim lore.
Yeah, I was like, that kind of sounds familiar.
Everything in the 4th era is Skyrim lore.
Okay.
Because it is the only game that takes place there. Except for Blades, I guess. Blades and Legends. Legends is the card game, Blades is the mobile game. 4th era, year 171. The Great War begins as the Aldmeri Dominion invades Cyrodiil and Hammerfell after Titus Mede II rejects an ultimatum to make massive concessions to the Thalmor. So basically they offer him a deal, he says, fuck you, no. Leowyn and Breville, 2 cities in Cyrodiil, fall to Lord Narfin, an Altmer leading an assault from elsewhere. In an army under another Altmer, Lady Aurelia, across western Cyrodiil, causes the March of Thirst as Imperial troops are forced to retreat from the Alakir Desert. 4th era, year 174, the Imperial city falls to the Thalmor. The palace is burned, the White Gold Tower is looted. The Reachmen at this time rebel and take over the Reach, the western part of Skyrim. A year later, the Empire wins a late victory in Cyrodiil after the Battle of the Red Ring results in the destruction of the main Aldmeri force in the Imperial lands. The Elder Scrolls disappear from the Imperial Library for unknown reasons. The Great War ends with the White Gold Concordat, a treaty between the Empire and the Dominion that gives the Thalmor the right to stamp out the worship of Talos and cedes much of southern Hammerfell. This also completely outlaws the Blades. The Blades are disbanded and the Thalmor hunt them down.
Dang. Not only did they ban my boy Big T, they also banned the Dragon Boys.
Titus Mede is criticized for accepting the White Gold Concordat because apparently these terms are almost identical to the ultimatum that the Thalmor originally offered him. Hammerfell leaves the Empire and rejects the Concordat.
Hell yeah.
Fourth era, year 176. A little guy named Ulfric Stormcloak retakes the Reach in the name of the Empire. Ulfric fought in the Great War against the Aldmeri Dominion, and now that he didn't like that the Aldmeri Dominion basically controlled the Empire now, but he's like, fuck it. I'm gonna go lead my boys, we're gonna retake the Reach, and we did this for you, Empire. We did this literally for you. Here's a gift. I'm giving you, basically General Sherman was like, I took Atlantis, here's your Christmas gift. That's basically what Ulfric Stormcloak did. Atlanta, I meant Atlanta.
I was like,
Yeah, no. But that's basically what happened. And then, so the Reachmen then flee into the wild and become the Forsworn of Skyrim. Ulfric and his supporters, however, are detained by the Thalmor for doing this because they openly worshipped Talos.
Wait, hang on. So they went and attacked the Forsworn?
They went, so basically the Reach had been taken, which basically Markarth, in Skyrim. The Reach had been taken over by the Reachmen. Ulfric Stormcloak and his boys, in the name of the Empire, drove the Reachmen out. And then the Empire let the Thalmor take Ulfric and his boys into custody because they worship Talos. And basically this is when Ulfric gets fed up. He and his boys are shortly released afterwards, but this event becomes known as the Markarth Incident, and it is later credited as the inciting event for the Stormcloak Rebellion. Fourth era, year 180, the Second Treaty of Sturs Mackay is signed, and the Aldmeri Dominion fully retreat from Hammerfell. Fourth era, year 188, Corsairs seize Wayrest and raid the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary there. In the meantime, Reveal, back in Cyrodiil, erupts into violence due to a war being waged by the two largest skooma traffickers in the city. This results in the destruction of the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary there, and the Night Mother's remains fall into the care of a Breton man named Cicero. Fourth era, year 195, Septimus Cygnus, an insane worshipper of Hermaeus Mora, publishes Ruminations on the Elder Scrolls. Fourth era, year 201, the last year canonically in the Elder Scrolls timeline. High King Torrig of Solitude is challenged to a duel by Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak of Windhelm. Ulfric fucking kills Torrig and rightfully takes the title of High King of Skyrim.
I think I know what side of the Civil War he was on.
The Empire does not fucking like this. This launches the Skyrim Civil War. Yes.
You forgot the part that he used the dragon
Yes,
voice.
he used the Thu, or the dragon shouts to kill Torrig.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Ulfric.
Ulfric did. He can do.
Yeah,
he shouts.
he's not a dragonborn, but he knows how to do him, and he ripped that man apart using it.
Yes. That is at least what the legends say.
Oh, yeah.
Legends say he tore him apart with his voice. I don't know if that's exactly what happened.
I mean, Ulfric's kind of a bad.
So yeah, Torrig's wife, an Altmer woman named Elisif, she becomes the Jarl of Solitude. Another controversial decision made by the Empire. And then on the 17th of last seed, which I think is September, Alduin returns because he had been sent forward in time. Alduin returns and destroys Helgen, heralding the return of dragons and the end of the world. The last Dragonborn, said to be the final descendant of the Alessian line, your player character in Skyrim.
Any gender.
They basically, the last, Skyrim basically tries to repeat Morrowind by having you be the chosen one. Does it very shittily. The Skyrim main quest is nothing to write home about. I wouldn't take it home to my parents personally. But basically this results in the last Dragonborn defeats Alduin and Sovngarde with the help of the warriors who had originally banished him. Is that good? The last known remaining sanctuary of the Dark Brotherhood is attacked by the Penitus Oculi, an Imperial force, but shortly thereafter the Dark Brotherhood assassinates Titus Mede II. The College of Winterhold, in tandem with the Siege Order, foil a Falmer plot to steal the Eye of Magnus and take over Winterhold.
Sure.
The companions reassemble Wuthrat, the weapon of their patron Ysgramor. The Dawn Guard is reformed to fight the growing threat of vampires in Skyrim. They oppose Lord Harkon, whose daughter Serana assists the Dragonborn and finding Ariel's bow,
Lord
which leads to Archon's defeat. Mirac reawakens on Solstheim as a champion of Hermaeus Mora, but he's defeated by the last Dragonborn after Mora favors the last Dragonborn over Mirac. This also means that the last Dragonborn is currently a puppet of Hermaeus Mora.
Nah, there's another way. You can
Also this year, the Mechanical Heart, this is just a random fucking storyline in the Elder Scrolls Legends. The Mechanical Heart, remember Sophisil was working on that? Well, it gets finished now. Years after Sophisil died. And it is used to repower the Clockwork City. So the Clockwork City is running again.
It's okay!
People are there.
Woo! Nirvana's alright!
And finally, the last event that canonically happens is a Creation Club modded storyline from the Anniversary Edition of Skyrim. Basically, the last Dragonborn and the Vigilance of Stendar, they come together and they destroy a reformed cell of the Mythic Dawn and the Oblivion Gate that they summon. And that is the last canonical event that happened in the Elder Scrolls timeline. We made it! We made it!
Well, you gotta do your ranking now.
Before I give my final thoughts, any questions? Any comments? Any concerns?
So in the fucking Dragonborn DLC, you can actually use Bend Will on Mirac and actually clear his mind from Hermaeus Mora and break your spell from Hermaeus Mora.
Deadass?
Deadass.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can you fight with Mirac. You fight Hermaeus Mora and fight your way out.
Cool.
I was like, no way, and then I did it, and I was like, that's a thing. And like it ends with like him going to the Skald village, and he's like, I'm sorry, I really was not in the right place of mind. And then like that blonde haired bitch is just like, I mean,
that's pretty cool. I wonder if that's canonical or not.
I mean, I'm assuming the fact that most players probably killed the fuck out of Mirac and just accepted Hermaeus Mora because they didn't want to go ahead and try things, like Bend Will.